Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to our channel. This channel is like virtually an online yeshiva. What can't you get here? We have Rambam, we have Mishnah, we have Halacha as our first of two sessions tonight. And we're going to have Riff also, which is a great way to learn B'kiyas. Daf Yomi is about to restart. And half a day is really too much to take in and memorize. There's the Rif who distilled the Talmud down to the opinion that we rule like, and he explains why he selected that opinion over the other opinions. According to the Rambam, as we will prove when we start our Rambam series, that's adequate to fulfill your obligation to learn Talmud. You fulfill your obligation to learn Talmud with the Rif alone. The Rambam himself advocated learning Rif for people to fulfill their obligation of Talmud. But anyway, speaking of which, the text we've selected to teach halacha with is probably one of the greatest Jewish texts ever written. The Aruch HaShulchan is a unique book that, speaking of your obligation to learn Mishnah, which includes all codified law, but also to learn Talmud, which is the study of the origins of the law, where the law originated, and also the technology of comparing and contrasting, precedents to new questions that arise. The Aruch HaShulchan does all that. It's an amazing book that it's the best of the Mishnah and the Talmud all in one, in a sense that he starts from the Gemara, or the original source, and he thrashes his way through the generations to the final ruling, and as well as deals with the contemporary questions that came up in his day, which is, only 100 years ago or less. He's a relatively recent book that one could rely on because he comes late in our history, so he saw all the work of its predecessors. It's a wonderful sefer. My Rosh Yeshiva, Yaakov Weinberg, Zichron Livracha, highly advocated it. And speaking of which, my Rebbe, Moshe Shapiro, also thought that for lay people, he was a little bit, he thought that what's more worthwhile for them than Daf Yomi is to learn Aruch HaShulchan. And I've heard it also from, Yibadal Chaim Tovim, Rav Matisyahu Deitch, the Rav of Ramat Shlomo, where I lived in Israel. He said people that master the Yoreh Yoreh could hold with the best. They could talk and learning with real people, or real yeshivalites, real Koilo Jungerlites, because the Yoreh Yoreh gives a very, very solid overview of the halacha, in the sense of where it came from and what the proofs were for. So you get from a few pages of Aruch HaShulchan, the same product that people get from learning, Talmud, Rishonim, and Achronim, just in concise form. It's really a wonderful work. Now, I'm sorry for making this introduction so lengthy. I just want you to appreciate what you're getting. We've decided, for a further incentive to learn the areas of Jewish law that anyway every Jew has to know. But it's particularly what you're tested on if you want Semicha, Rabbinical ordination. You want to be ordained as a rabbi. So in Yoreh Yoreh, it's the laws of Kosher, Basar, Taruvus, Malicha, Tolaim, and Nida, and we're going to get to all that eventually. And also Shabbos, and now there's a thing that's a new hype, and I mean that in the positive sense, right? A new positive development. You have to excuse in the background. My golden retriever is chewing on a plastic bottle, so please don't be distracted by the crinkling sounds in the background. Sorry. There's now Smichas Chaver, to give the title Chaver, which in my day when I was a yeshiva guy, they used to call it Rabu Manik. That's a lower level of smicha, and the day-to-day laws of Shabbos, and it definitely qualified to be a community rabbi on a Shabbos. You'll know what to tell people as far as how to keep Shabbos, and presumably you'll have the proficiency to make the sermon. Smichas Chaver, so giving the title Chaver, a ordination called Chaver, but in my day it was called Rabu Manik. So that's with the Shabbos curriculum that we'll do in Aruch HaShulchan. With that alone, you could get that Semicha. Now, let me be very clear. I am not going to give anybody ordination because they sat and listened to, my YouTube lessons in Aruch HaShulchan. But what you can do is, if you take these lessons very seriously, you don't miss a single one, and you commit them to memory. You can ask a recognized rabbi to test you, and if you pass this test, he'll give you ordination. He'll give you smicha, whether it's smichas chaver on Hilchos Shabbos, or whether it's Yoreh Yoreh on having done everything that we're teaching in Aruch HaShulchan. Right, it's up to you to take this seriously and then to seek out a recognized rabbi to test you, and then, of course, pass this test, which you ought to be able to do if it's an oral exam and you have, committed this all to memory. A written exam, they may ask for the sources that the Aruch HaShulchan himself drew from, which might be a little bit awkward because you didn't see it firsthand. Now listen, you could, after we have a session here, you could go back to the Aruch HaShulchan and go back to his sources yourself and look them up firsthand. But the bottom line is, this is very useful, powerful information. And if you want to get a smicha, an ordination from a rabbi, it's going to be very strict with you and demand that you do the Torah and Shulchan Aruch, Beis Yosef, Bach, and Darkei Moshe, and Shach, and Taz, all inside. This will be an excellent, excellent introduction because you'll have had a synopsis of everything that they say already. So it's very, very useful. Take this very seriously. Now, how do you take it seriously? Well, step one is to subscribe. Subscribe. That way you get notification of every time we're posting another session. Right, so even if you don't catch it live, it's posted, but you'll know that you have to look for it. Whether you have the opportunity to catch it live, or you'll know that there was another installment that you have to make up. So subscribe to this channel. Like I say, on this channel, it's getting a full online yeshiva education. We will shortly start also a curriculum in Talmud, for Bekias, we're going to use Rif, which is the best way to get bang for your buck, easy to retain. As we say, tafasta maruba lo tavasi. If you try to grab onto too much, you get nothing. Right? Rif is an excellent, excellent way to go through Shas. Getting exactly what you should make sure to retain from the Daf Gemara. So he distilled it down to itself, like what is the final ruling, and of course the background of that final ruling. And why that is the final ruling. We will endeavor to use Sfarim like Maaseh Ilfas, Derech Yeshara, other Sfarim that were built around the Rif to also incorporate other opinions in the event that the halacha is not like the Rif. Right? So we'll try to make it a good, comprehensive shiur on the Rif. Anyway, so and we're gonna have to start Lumdus also, an Iyun Seder with Lumdus. I'm thinking about teaching Bechoros, in this forum. All right, so subscribe to the channel. As did I mention, aside from my own thoughts on philosophy and the parsha, we go through Kuzari, we go through Mar Nevuchim, we go through Derech Hashem. There's so much on this channel. So subscribe, and then you'll get notifications. We may add new things, and you won't know about it. But if you're subscribed to the channel, you will know about it. So, Chevra, subscribe to the channel. Good things are coming. All right. So now, without further ado, Yoreh HaShulchan lived roughly 100 years ago, and he was the Rabbin of Varda, super genius. Supposedly, he wrote this book, in between receiving people coming to him either for Dinei Torah or Ask Shilas. Supposedly he wrote this off the top of his head. He was such a genius. This is like a powerful book that is it is the best of both worlds. It is, sometimes all the academia of where the halacha comes from, sometimes in all that academia, you actually don't know what the final ruling ought to be because you see all the different sides and all different possibilities. Or people just learn the public law sometimes, are just it's dry, it's unsatisfying, and you don't really understand why the law is the law. And it is the perfect balance. It is the perfect book that it starts from the Gemara and the Mishnah, goes through the Rambam, Beis Yosef, Ramah, and summarizes the works of the Achronim, the Poskim, and gives you the final ruling. As like I said, you could fulfill your entire obligation to learn the oral law, the Torah Shebaal Peh, both the Mishnah aspect, which is the codified law, and the Talmud aspect, which is the science of researching the origins of halacha and comparing, contrasting to make new halacha. You can fulfill both obligations with this wonderful sefer, the Aruch HaShulchan. So now, without further ado, we start Siman Pezat, Siman 87, because we're going to try to keep this in 20-minute slots, so it's easy to catch. It should be easy to find time for it and easy to retain. And we'll try to be giving these slots off enough that we cover ground. But that's another reason why you have to subscribe to the channel, because there might be a day that will, give a one slot of Basar of these laws in the morning, and the mood will move me, and I'll add another one in the evening. And if you're subscribed, you'll know about it. So if you can't catch it live, you know to look for it. Okay. Before Torah. Now, the prohibition of eating meat and milk is black on white in the Chumash, right, in the 5 books of Moses. In all instances, it's written 3 times, I believe. In all instances, it's written, Lo savasho gedi b'chalei vimo, do not cook a kid in the milk of its mother. Right? We're talking about kid, gedi, kid as in, baby animals we're going to learn. That's where the term kid originally came from. Right? The gedi lav dafka, now that what we say a kid doesn't mean a kid goat, which is how the term is most often applied. The term kid, gedi, kid, biblically applies equally to a baby ox, a baby bovine, cow, bull, ox, right? A baby sheep and a baby goat. It applies equally to all 3. And these are the 3 species that by biblical law are fleshic, are considered meat, right? As we're going to learn, deer meat. Deer meat is not fleshic by Torah law, right? The rabbis made deer meaty as far as the prohibition of meat and milk. So aside from deer, all types of deers, chicken, fowl, right? The poultry. Not fleshing by Torah law. By Torah law, by original biblical prohibition, before the rabbis instituted safeguards and considered other animal flesh as meat, as vis-a-vis the prohibition of mixing with milk. By biblical law, there's only 3 types of species that are fleshing, that are meat, as in the prohibition of mixing with milk, and that is, the bovines, the shore, the cow family, the seh, right, the sheep, the A's, and the and the goats, sheep, and cows. These are what are fleshing, right? The gedi kol vlad ashor vlad aseh vlad is the term gedi, kid, includes the child of a ox, the child of a sheep, and the child of a goat. Actual custom of Gedizim, it only means a goat per se if the Torah specifically said Gedi, kid, Izim, kid of goat. Only when you have those 2 words together, Gedi, Izim, that's when the term Gedi only means a kid goat. It only means that when the Torah specifies the kid of a goat, Gedi, Izim. All right? Like the Pasuk says, by Judah, he sent to Tamar, thinking that she was a different woman. As you know the story, he sent to her Gedi Izim, right, a kid goat. Oros Izim, right, the Pentecost after Izim, and also by Jacob masquerading as Esav, for the positive purpose of getting these, getting the blessings from Yitzchak. Right? So he put on the skins of the Deahs and the skin of the kid goat. All right, so over there you see he's bringing proof that if the Torah means Gedi as in a kid, as in kid goat, it will specify Gedi Izim. All right. Just says regular gedi without any specification. So also ox and sheep are included. Now said don't cook a kid, which includes goat, sheep, and cow, and calf. In the milk of its mother, love that doesn't necessarily have to be the milk of its own mother that's prohibited. The loshna b'chalav chalav acheres, right? It's not talking. Makes a difference whether the goat was cooked in its own mother's goat milk, or was cooked in the goat milk of a different mother, or it was cooked in cow milk, right? As any one of these three species cooked in any one of the milks of these three species is included in the prohibition of meat and milk. Right? So why did it say the milk of its mother? Right? The Torah was just talking, by the normal circumstances. If you have a baby goat, that means its mother just gave birth to it. It means its mother's lactating. So if you want some goat milk, you're going to go to this little kid's mother. Right? So the Torah just said in its mother's milk because that's where you'll probably find milk to cook this, baby goat in. Right? So it's just this is what's probably the scenario, but the prohibition is not just on its own mother's milk. It's on the goat milk of a different mother, or it's on cow milk or sheep milk. Right? It's any one of these three species the flesh of any one of these three species may not be cooked in the milk of any one of these three species. Yeah, so yes, as we'll indeed learn in the continuation, just like by biblical law, only bovines, the cow, and all the types of cows, right, and and all the types of sheep and all the types of goats. It's like their flesh by biblical law is meat, vis-a-vis the prohibition of mixing with milk. So also only the milk of goats, only the milk of sheep, and only the milk of cows is called milk, vis-a-vis the prohibition of mixing meat and milk. That's by biblical law. Like we said before, the rabbis, just like they outlawed and they called right, they called all animal flesh, not fish, animals, land dwelling flesh, land, with the exception of grasshoppers. Grasshoppers, they gave grasshoppers the same halacha as fish, right? They left it in its regular biblical status, that and fish. But all land dwelling animals, they're not creepy crawly things like grasshoppers. There's a certain type of kosher grasshopper. All right, as we're going to learn. All right, so now all land animals, their flesh is considered meat, vis-a-vis prohibition meat, milk and meat, only rabbinically, not biblically. Same thing by their milk. Their milk is not really milk, by biblical law. All right, so that's how you do. Don't lose sight of that. All right, so these, it means any one of these three may not be cooked in the milk of their mothers, i.e., in the milk of their species. And the same thing goes, not just in its own species, not only not its own mother, but not even its own species. So a little baby goat not only may not be cooked in the milk of any goat, not just its mother's milk, but in the milk of any goat. So also may not be cooked in the milk of a cow or in the milk of a sheep. Right, so was the Torah only said in its mother's milk because that's just the common place of where you would find milk. If you have a little baby goat, the mother of that goat is lactating. That's where you'd find your milk. That's all. But it doesn't mean that the prohibition is limited to its own mother's milk. But the Kavachama drawing, and look, it's simple logic. אם עשר תלבש הבשר בחלב שהיו ביחד מהם אחד וינק מהחלב כחלב אחר שלא היו ביחד כלל ואין זה בגדרי כחלב שלום בזה אין עונשין מן הדין זה רק גילוי מילצה בעלמא ויוסר מגילוי מילצה. Right? It's simple logic. If the Torah outlawed cooking a goat in its own mother's milk, and it came from that mother, and it in itself grew up to whatever extent it grew, by drinking that milk. So it's like virtually its own flesh, in a manner of speaking. It came from that mother that's giving that milk. It itself suckled that milk and grew up on that milk, and it's still a prohibited mixture. How much more so it should be a prohibited mixture to cook it in the milk of a foreign, a foreign animal that's not its mother, or not even its own species. Right? And he says this is simple logic. This is not what we say, ain ochmed, and we know that we cannot construct a kal v'chomer, right? Say, well, if this is prohibited, how much more so that should be prohibited? We may not use that, method of reasoning to invent a new prohibition, right? Or certainly not to punish with, right? But over here, this doesn't fall into that purview because it's not like a proof. We're not constructing a proof. This is self-evident logic. It's Gilui Milsa. It's self-evident logic that implicit in prohibiting a mother's milk means that certainly includes, milk that's not its mother's, right? And certainly includes milk that's not its own species, right? All right, and we'll discuss this more later. And he's going to come back to this idea that this is not called constructing a proof, but rather it is just a self-evident truth. Constructing a proof, we're limited with what we can prove with that as far as prohibiting things, and certainly as far as punishing, like giving lashes, right? For transgressing what we learned out of a logical proof. But it's not a logical proof. He's saying it's a self-evident truth. It's not called that it was that we went through a certain process to derive this prohibition. It is self-evident. Mother's milk includes non-mother's milk, which includes the milk of other species also, right? Or any species that's called gedi, kid. You know, let's say it that way. All right, we're going to come back to this. But now we're going to learn about. We'll do two more halachas, and then we'll call it a night for our first night. Right, about how this prohibition of meat and milk is, rather severe. Even though it's a negative commandment that back in the days when we had capital punishment, you'd get lashes for transgressing, but it is far more reaching than the other kosher laws. It includes other prohibitions they don't have in standard kosher laws, like the prohibition of eating pork, as he goes on to explain. Because of the prohibition of the mixture of milk and meat is different than all other prohibitions of kosher prohibitions. B'shnei dvarim in two ways. Because first of all, by most, not by all, but by most of the things that are non-kosher, all right, you may not be allowed to eat it, but you're allowed to enjoy it. You can enjoy the scent. You can make a lotion out of it and smear it on your skin, right? Levad mi arla v'kilia karen, right? Right? Except the exceptions to this rule are very few. So first, he just mentioned some of the exceptions that there are 365 days a year. The exceptions to this rule that you may enjoy its scent, enjoy smearing it on your body, right? Just don't eat it, right? There's orla, fruits, fruits from the tree. For the first 3 years, you may not eat those fruits. Those fruits are not only prohibited from eating, you may not even derive pleasure from them. Can't smell it, can't smear it on your skin. And say the kilia keren, the forbidden mixture of grain in your vineyard. So everything becomes prohibited. Those halachas are very complicated. I'm not going to go into that, but kilia keren, you have kilayim, problem of grain growing in your vineyard. So that whole lot becomes prohibited, not just in eating, but you're not allowed to derive pleasure from it. I'll tell you an interesting anecdote. Won't hear this anywhere else. I once worked in a vineyard as a volunteer. When I was a young yeshiva student in Israel, I volunteered in Moshav Matityahu. I subsequently became, at the time Rabbi left, their revered rabbi, world-renowned rabbi, who I'm close to, gave me not probation, Askaman, a book I'm about to publish, in memory of my sainted mother, HaShulchan. But I actually worked there the summer before he arrived. I was working there, and at that time, their vineyard, their kerem, their vineyard was still within its first 3 years. So, I was a young, I wasn't even 18 at the time. Maybe, I was like, I think I was only 17. And I graduated high school early. So I think I was only 17. It was the summer after my first year in yeshiva. I was not yet 18. Not yet 18. So, young kid, such as I was, and working with a bunch of other young punks. What do you do with grapes you're not allowed to eat? We started throwing it at each other. We started pelting each other with these grapes that are prohibited to be eaten. Huh? So then, I think I volunteered only for a week and a half. And then I went to Jerusalem, and I spent time with my learned uncle, who since has passed on. He was my learned great uncle. They said, "Listen, don't you know, Orla? Just like you weren't allowed to eat, you weren't allowed to derive pleasure from it. And here you were pelting each other. You played ball with it, or played, like our own version of paintball with it, throwing it at each other. Right? You did a prohibition. You derived pleasure from it." So I asked, at that time, Rabbi Lazar Dunn Waldenberg, Lesser Yehuda Waldenberg, the Tzitz Eliezer lived in that area in the center of Jerusalem. I asked him this question, and he thought for a second. I said, "Zei shtolut, ze lo ana." The conversation took place in Hebrew. Said, that's just, you weren't really getting pleasure from the fruit. You were just being frivolous. Pleasure was in the frivolity, that you're acting crazy, pelting each other with it. You weren't getting, that's not called get pleasure from the fruit, right? Didn't feel good on the skin. You weren't solved. The pleasure was in being frivolous, and which he wasn't necessarily being approving of. But he says, "Hey, look, you were just having fun by acting crazy. It's not called pleasure from the fruit." Right? I had another question for him. They said he wanted to think about more, and sadly, I never went back to him for an answer. And he has since, long since passed on. But at the time, I asked him whether, even though these fruits are not, fit for any type of consumption, was it wrong to denigrate fruit that way? Maybe it should just be respectfully burnt or buried. Is it right that just because it's prohibited in pleasure, you could just do stuff that is, what we generally would be called bizayon ochlin, right? To denigrate food, So a prohibition of wasting there isn't, because it's not allowed to be consumed. Maybe because it's food, and yet they had to be disposed of in a more honorable way. And that, he said, he wanted to think about more. He didn't give me a concrete answer, didn't give me an answer at all. And sadly, I never heard the answer to that one. But at least I was relieved that I was not guilty of getting pleasure from Orla, because having a food fight, that's not called to enjoy the food itself. Pleasure comes from the acting like a sugar, right? He wasn't approving of that behavior either. But anyway, but these are the two exceptions to the rule, 365 days a year, right? That, so it's basar b'cholav, meat and milk cooked together, is going to learn, right? And orla and kila karam, these are the three things that all year round, not only may you not eat them, you may not get any type of pleasure from them, not even smell them, not even smear them on yourself. No type of pleasure is permitted. Right? Now, I said, he's only enumerating what's 365 days a year. There is something that he's not mentioning, and it's understandable why, because it's only 7 days a year, right? And that's chometz on Pesach. Chometz on Pesach itself, from the time Pesach comes in on Seder night until Pesach goes out, right? During those 7, we're talking about biblically, right? By biblical law. But biblically, Pesach is 7 days, not 8 days. We keep that in Chutzlar, it's outside of Israel, because they're keeping the custom of when they live far away from where the calendar was being set. They have a doubt which day is Pesach started on. Nice, so we keep that custom. So, but biblically speaking, the biblical Pesach from when Pesach first comes in until Pesach goes out. So chametz is not only prohibited to be eaten, it may not be enjoyed. Like so, I'm not going to get into it. It could be that's only rabbinic, maybe. You know, you know. Question is why that is. That even on you may not even enjoy it. Okay, I'm not going to. But the reason why it's not mentioned is because it's not 365 days a year. It's special on Pesach itself. Now, what you need to know, therefore, is if you're walking down the street and there's a pizza shop that's open on Pesach, you got to clog your nose. Now, if you're able to go down a different street, that's exactly what you should do. So we're talking about that. So now, if you can't, there is no other street to go down. So just don't, and you can't clog your nose. Let's say you're holding bags, right? So your hands are full. So let's say you went shopping, let's say, because you had to go shopping. Cholamoid Pesach, you really shouldn't do shopping either unless it's necessary. Let's say it was absolutely necessary. You had to go shopping for stuff that you needed for, Cholamoid. So let's just set it up. Your hands are full, right? So you can't clog your nose. So, you're walking down the street where there's a pizza shop. There's the aroma of chametz. Right? So what do? So if there's another street to go down, and so again, you cannot clog your nose. Clogging your nose is the simplest answer. So that way you just won't smell it, period. Right? You can't clog your nose because your hands are full. You're carrying bags. You can't put them down and clog your nose. You're on a Manhattan street. You have like 1,000 people behind you pushing you forward. You can't just stop, right? So now go down a different street. Now, if there is no other street to go down, there isn't. Leka darka achrina, there is no other street. So the halacha is, okay, you're considered to be under a situation of einus, duress. Well, so what you must do is, so even though you can't help yourself, you're going to smell it, but you have to have intent. I do not want to enjoy this. I'm breathing this in against my will, and I'm not enjoying it. And God, who knows what you're really thinking, He knows whether you're sincere or not. So it is happening against my will. I don't want it. But if you're in a situation of duress and you say, hell, it's duress anyway, let's take advantage and whiff in that chametz, of course you're guilty because you did it willingly, right? You can't use the external circumstance of duress as a ticket for forbidden pleasure. It's okay, it's duress. So you have to at least have in mind with a whole heart, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. Okay. But if you can hold your nose, you must hold your nose and or go down another street, and that's exactly what you have to do if you're in a situation of duress. If there's another street to go down another street. You could have gone down that other street and you didn't, and no one's going to buy your story that it's duress. God won't buy that story because if you really care to not enjoy it, you had another street to go down. Okay, so just bear that in mind. I had a crazy situation. I won't say which hotel. I worked in a hotel as a rabbi at scholar residence, and Seder night, which was the public communal Seder that I was conducting, you had to transverse a hallway where some guy was operating. Not part of the hotel, obviously. Some guy was operating a pizza shop on Pesach. So I had to instruct all people. By the time I got into the hall, and for people who had already walked in, they didn't know the halacha, but they knew it for on the way out and for the next night, right? Plug your nose. Right? Okay, so so Basar is one of these rare instances that there's only few others like it, where it's not just prohibited to eat, it's also prohibited to enjoy. אבל לא בבישולם ובשר חוב אסור גם בבישול בלבד בלא אכילה וגם בלא הנאה. רק מלכוס אין חייב אלא אכילה ועל בישול הנאה שיטת הרמב"ם שביארנו בסימן פ"ח ספר עבור בהרשת הטעם אין שם ויש בו עשה שמעתי דבריהם שחולקים בזה עשוי וגם על איסר הנאה לוקן. But here's the thing, where Basar B'chol is different and worse than everything we mentioned. Chametz on Pesach, Orla, Kili Akerem, right? basar b'cholav, milk and meat, you're not even allowed to cook them together. Meaning the literal words of the Torah, do not cook them together, is also true. So it means don't cook nor don't eat. But it also means don't cook. If I cook meat and milk together, my nose is clogged. I'm not getting any pleasure from the aroma. Right? Right? I am not going to eat it. I have done a Torah prohibition that warrants lashes back in the days when there was capital punishment just for having cooked it, even though I got no pleasure from it. And so I cooked it for someone else, and I had my nose firmly clogged. It is prohibited to cook meat and milk together. That's amazing. That's not what we don't have. Chametz you may not allow to own, right? But if it's someone else's chametz and your nose is clogged and you're cooking it for some other guy, not for a Jew, God forbid, you're cooking it for a guy, and it's not your chametz, and you're not enjoying it, you're not in any way acquiring it, right? You haven't done anything wrong, right? It's not prohibited to cook if it's not yours and if you're not getting any pleasure from it, right? Orla, a guy commands you to cook his orla, right? He'll pay you for it. Yeah, no problem. You can cook his orla for him. It's not your orla. You're not giving it to him in order to, let's say, take money for it, because we're not allowed to, or to do it to TL him, to get fair, because that would be called getting pleasure from orla for its value. You're not allowed to get it. It's not your orla. It's his orla, right? It's his kilei akera, right? So you're cooking it, and he's paying you to cook it. There's no problem with that, right? If you're not eating it, you're not getting any pleasure from it, no problem with that. And basar b'cholav, it's prohibited to cook the two together. It's even prohibited to cook the two together. So it is a very important thing for Jews who are in chef school, right? So Orthodox Jews, all Jews should keep kosher, right? Jews who are in chef school have a huge problem here. A huge problem here. It's not good enough that they don't sample their own cooking. That is not good enough, right? So fine, say, well, what do I care? I am not, I'm cooking this meat and milk together. I won't eat it. I won't even smell it. And my instructor, he's the only one who's going to smell it and taste it and tell me if I did it right. You're not allowed to cook meat and milk together. It's its own prohibition that warrants lashes. It's equally a prohibition as eating it. Right? So, Jews in chef school really have this issue. And I really don't know what to say. Right? To cook any one of these three species, together with the milk from any one of these three species is its own prohibition if you get no pleasure from it, if you do it for someone else. So something to be mindful of. So that's like what sets basar b'cholav apart from all other prohibitions of consumption and pleasure. But as Yoreh Yoreh points out, cooking, according to the Rambam, is worse than getting pleasure. Because eating and cooking, those two, cooking meat and milk together or eating them, you get lashes. Right? According to the Rambam, just whiffing it, or smearing it on your body, right, doesn't get lashes, but it's equally as prohibited biblically. But there are Rishonim that argue on the Rambam. Right? But let's put it this way: it's all three are equally as prohibited. And according to the Rambam, for sure, 2 out of 3 you get lashes for. And according to other Rishonim, for all 3 you get lashes. But they're all equally biblically prohibited. Don't eat meat and milk that were cooked together. Right? Don't get pleasure from it. Don't even cook it. Don't even cook it. If you're not going to eat it, you're not going to smell it. Right? Not even as a favor to someone else. It's not for your own benefit. No. Can't cook meat and milk together. That which is biblically called meat and that which is biblically called milk. We'll do one more. We're on a roll. Isn't it great? Right? Subscribe to this great channel. Okay. ועוד יש בו חומר מכל איסורי אכילה, ובכל איסורי אכילה אין לו כלה מלך דרך הנוסף, כדי שלאו שאין כזו של אכילה, משהו דרך אכילה, אבל בסוף לא כתב שלא כדרך רצון. ביום זה פ"ה, עין שם. פ"ה. Right. וכך אמרו חז"ל, לפיכך לא כסיף בסחוב לא שכיל, לא מרשוק להפעיל שלא כדרך הנוסף. לכן אפילו ערב דבר מה, תוך כדי שבסחוב, אפילו באכלו חייב, וכן אם אוכל בסחוב, אחר שהשיח והספרתם מאוכלם, נראה לי דחייב. אבל יסעבו את הבסחוב, צריך לא פדם, כשלוב ציף למד גימו. Another big severity of meat and milk together. and is derived from the fact that the Torah said don't cook it together, even though cooking includes eating. So why did the Torah just say, don't eat? The very fact that the Torah said repetitively, not just once, 3 times, do not cook meat and milk together, right? Kept on focusing on the cooking as opposed to saying eating, even though cooking it together is prohibited totally, so eating it, right? So, but why keep on saying cooking? Say to teach you, it has to even if it's not something that anyone would enjoy eating. Eating it, since it said cooking, which includes eating, without saying eating per se. Eating per se, or said, has to be food. It has to be the type of thing you enjoy eating. Case in point, you eat putrid pork. God forbid, I'm not saying it's good for your soul. It's certainly not good for your body. Right? Putrid pork, you will not get lashes. You do not do a prohibition. You got no pleasure from it. It has to be edible. Edible doesn't have to be now. Edible, by the way, doesn't mean that it has to that non-edible doesn't mean that it is poison. It doesn't have to be poison. It does not have to be poison as long as it's very, very bitter. Inedible means it's not something that you would, not something that normal people would touch. Tastes bad, bad. Doesn't have to be poison. Tastes bad. All right. So now, by all other conventional things that are prohibited to eat, right? Right? If it tastes bad, you're not enjoying eating it. So it's not prohibited. It's not called to eat because Torah asks eating. Eating is something that's edible, something that's that is very bad tasting, very bad tasting. That's already called inedible in halacha, right? So now, since Torah said that don't eat it, which don't cook it, which includes eating, but it didn't say don't eat per se. Whereas by other prohibitions of kashrus, it says don't eat. So I say, don't eat that which ought to be could be eaten, which is edible, which tastes normal, right? Things that are spoiled, even if they're not poisoned, but they're spoiled, right? So that's how called you derive the pleasure of eating from it. That was masochism. That wasn't eating. That was masochism. If it wasn't suicide, it's still masochism, right? But by basar b'chalav, even if you mix in it something bitter, it's very bitter. Chef really screwed up. It's burnt. It's bitter. And the Aruch HaShulchan wants to say that his understanding is even if it's totally putrid, you're still not allowed to eat it, right? Because the Torah didn't care whether it's edible in the halachic sense or not, because the Torah never limited it to don't eat. Don't eat would imply edible. It never said don't. It said don't cook, which includes not eating, which includes all forms of consumption, like not even getting pleasure from it. So therefore, if you eat it and it's not edible, right? Which sounds, even if it's like really putrid, it's still a prohibition, right? So don't add insult, don't make yourself sick and still have to get lashes. Really bad stuff, right? So he says, vis-a-vis putrid, that's his chiddush. Some of the putrid, like some say it's not food at all. It's just not. It's putrid, spoiled. Like it's not food at all. It's not just not enjoyable, not pleasurable, but putrid. There are those that say that basar b'chalav that's putrid. It's not basar b'chalav. It's not called meat and milk mixed together. It's just not called any type of food whatsoever. It's not milk and meat. It's garbage. It's trash, right? But the Aruch HaShulchan paskins not that way, and he says not just if it's not pleasurable to the palate that it's not. It's even if it's downright putrid. You eat it. You've done a Torah prohibition because the Torah never said to enjoy it as food. That's prohibited to enjoy it as food, and it's prohibited to consume in any way, shape, or form. Just like it's prohibited to cook, any type of consumption is prohibited. It's like an amazing stringency that we have by basar. We don't have anything else. Right? Even because even on chametz on Pesach, if it's so putrid that even a dog won't eat it, right? It's not chametz, right? But according to the Yoreh Yoreh, basar b'chalav is even worse than that. If it's totally putrid, right? Because the Torah never prohibited as don't eat. The Torah prohibits don't cook, which means don't consume it in any way, shape, or form, whether that consumption is a pleasure or not. Right? So that's another amazing stringency that there is in Basar B'chov that there isn't anywhere else in the Torah. Right? However, and this is the last halacha, and we're going to come revisit this halacha. Interesting halacha. That which we say, even if it's bad and it's spoiled, and it's putrid, you still have a biblical prohibition to eat it. But to become in that state that it is forbidden, no matter how badly spoiled it becomes, is only if it was good meat mixed with good milk. Let's say the meat was putrid before you mix it with the milk. The milk was sour to the point that no one wants to drink it, right? The milk was totally sour before it was mixed with the meat. That combination doesn't get this severity of being basar b'chov, because the forbidden mixture is only when the two components were good in their own right. So the mixture between them becomes this thing that remains prohibited no matter how badly it got spoiled, burned, ruined in any way, shape, or form. But the mixture, the forbidden mixture, has to be made out of good components. If the meat was putrid before it got mixed with the milk, or the milk was putrid before it got mixed with the meat, to the point that they were considered inedible in the halachik sense, it does not result in its forbidden mixture. So the mixture that's forbidden, even if it tastes terrible, and even if it's putrid, that mixture has to be built out of edible components, edible meat and edible milk. All right, well, we will revisit that halacha. I enjoyed it. I'm sure you did also. All right, and subscribe to the channel, because not just about keeping up with this series. It's about catching all the myriad of things that we offer, great stuff that we offer on this channel. So please subscribe. And another thing, check out our website. We have a website that's has hundreds and hundreds of audios, videos, parsha sheets, Yom Tov sheets, readers, things that you could print out, before a Shabbos and a Chag. So take advantage. It's all free. EvanShasiya.com. EvanShasiya.com. So check out our website. See it on the chat bar. I'll even show it on the screen for a second. EvanShasiya.com. Right? So, check out our website. So much stuff. There's so much good stuff there. Right? But what's even more important is, because this stuff that we're giving over now is not on the website. So subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Subscribe. Because all this good stuff I'm giving you on this YouTube channel, most of it, if not all of it, is just not available on the website. So take advantage and subscribe. And like I said, if you stick with this material religiously, you can ask it would be within I guess, quote, feasibility, that you could ask a rabbi to test you on these laws, and you can get rabbinic ordination. If you pass his test, he tests you orally. Could happen. So take this really seriously. You know what? Take it seriously, because every Jew really has to know this. Keep a proper kosher kitchen. All right, take care. All right, everyone, take care.